Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley Headspaces. And this headspace is called the Trump State Visit. What was it actually for and what did it achieve? So before I jump into the Trump State Visit, what was it for and what did it actually achieve? I wanted to say thank you to all the people who have been listening, liking and commenting on my headspaces, on my Royal Corner and generally on my content. Please continue to like and share, hit the notification button and also hype the video by commenting, sharing and liking. I'm at the moment at 2,040 subscribers. A week ago, I was at 1,998 and I was working hard to get to 2,000. And I reached that goal and now I'm working hard to get to 2,100. So with your help, I can do that. Please share and also make a donation at denisehedley.com so I can continue to bring you this fabulous content. And also you can make a donation at my on my YouTube where I'm partial to free wings and chips and a Miranda or a whole Bitcoin. So let's jump straight into this headspace, which is called the Trump Visit. What was it for and what did it achieve? So back in February, when President Trump was considering placing tariffs on everybody in the world and also withdrawing support from the Ukraine war, Keir Starmer offered him the opportunity for a full state visit. He's already been here, but he hasn't had a full state visit. And the other day he was also in Scotland. The purpose of the state visit was to keep Trump on side with the NATO program. Essentially, when he first came in, Trump was talking about pulling out of NATO completely, completely redesigning the security architecture, basically on the grounds that the European nations paid a greater amount of money for the security that they received with the underneath NATO. And he was also not looking to continue with providing support to the Ukraine war. We all remember that acrimonious public display where Mr. Trump told Mr. Zelensky, "You have no cards." So Trump was in the space of moving away from the Ukraine project, not because he was no longer wanting to support the Israeli project, because like I said in previous headspaces, Israel is side chick number one, and as for the Ukraine, you're coming a very low second. So in that regard, he wasn't wavering on that point, but he was wavering in and around the question of continuing to provide support for the Ukraine, because what the Europeans want, if for those people who are not familiar, they want to continue the war. Yeah, especially the British and the French and the Germans, they're very keen to continue the war and they want the support of America so that they can bring America into the war. But the point is, the European project as an institution is losing its value. It's no longer there for advancement of the people. It's just about being a satellite of American foreign policy. That's what Europe is. And essentially, that was the reason why Mr. Starmer went over on bended knee with his crumpled piece of handwritten invitation to Mr. Trump to say, look, let's offer you a state visit because we absolutely know you like that whole pomp and ceremony. Let me do that for you. And then you can show that you're still involved and working with the Europeans. And that's what this is. So this exercise is not necessarily about just Mr. Starmer and his perception or how he wants his perception to be on the world stage about what he can do and who he can bring to the table, but it's also about the relationship between America and Europe and the continued support of America to basically underwrite any wars or military exercises that the Europeans want to be undertaken. So that's me addressing the first part of my question, what was the purpose of the visit? Now, the second part of my question is, what did it achieve? Well, if you rely on the media coverage of the event, any of the news broadcasts about the Trump visit, you'll be given the list that I was given on ChatGPT about all of the US tech companies who have given pledges and statements about job creation in and around the state visit. So you had Microsoft with their £22 billion investment in a cloud and AI infrastructure, and they are planning to build Britain's largest supercomputer infrastructure and operations expansion. I'm not quite sure what that means, and it certainly didn't detail any jobs. We have Google and DeepMind and Alphabet saying that there's going to be £5 billion investment in new data centers in Waltham Cross. The same data centers that use huge amounts of water to be cooled, huge amounts of electricity to run, and invariably they're not particularly green. But one of those is coming in Waltham Cross. And I think if you look back at my Headspaces, a few Headspaces ago, I talked about the investment in data centers in the UK, and quite a few of them are for investment banks, and the actual real tangible output to the communities in terms of long-term job security in these places is questionable. All of the investments, a huge number of them, are about data centers. So we've also got CoreWeave saying that they're going to expand their data center in the UK, and that was announced in and around the Trump visit. And Stargate UK, there's a collaborative infrastructure innovative exercise with OpenAI. None of these things are investing in what I would call long-term infrastructure works, in like steel or manufacturing or building things. They're all in AI, which I think is interesting given the Davos set and also given the company that Mr. Starmer keeps. So as an ordinary looker, or should I say as an ordinary person looking in, those things do sound full of, opportunity and interest. But I don't know how many people who are currently unemployed are going to be able to access those jobs. And even if those pledges are going to turn into reality. So as far as announcements, if you can classify an announcement as an achievement, there were a number of announcements with the Trump visit. So he comes here basically because the Europeans, want to keep him on side with the Ukraine war. That's the purpose of the state visit. And then when he comes here, what did he achieve, or what did the state visit achieve? It achieved a selection of announcements about what's to come. But if I was to ask myself as a layperson, what was the point of the visit and what did it achieve? I personally think the point of Mr. Trump's visit now is to act as a distraction to the questions around releasing the Epstein files in America. Because I think it doesn't go unnoticed to the ordinary person that Mr. Trump has been identified as somebody who had a friendship with Mr. Epstein and potentially, I do say potentially and allegedly, could have been involved in some of the activities. That's part of the conversation. Yeah, allegedly could be involved. So he is standing next to, when he comes to this country, the king, whose brother was involved with enjoying the favors that your friendship with Mr. Epstein garnered, and he was paid Virginia Giuffre a considerable sum of money whilst not admitting guilt, because she said that she was trafficked and he had utilized and enjoyed the use of trafficking by having a relationship, a sexual relationship with her. Mr. Trump is also coming to the UK in and amongst this situation where the actual ambassador to America, who I'm sure he presumably would have met Mr. Mandelson because he is the ambassador, he's no longer there because he's embroiled in the Epstein scandal. So if the objective was for the Trump administration to use this visit as a way of distracting its domestic audience about the questions of Epstein, that's not worked at all. And if you ask me, I think it's made it even more people are more interested and more eager to see and to hear and to have those files and all of that information put into the public domain, primarily because of who he is now standing next to. He's standing next to King Charles, the person whose brother was involved in the Epstein situation. He's standing next to Keir Starmer, who's ambassador to America, which Mr. Starmer appointed, is involved in the Epstein situation. And he's standing there potentially because he had him as a friend, and there's pictures of him. So the whole thing, in my view, as someone who's looking in, thinking, given the trouble that Mr. Trump is in relation to the Epstein files, and given the trouble that Mr. Keir Starmer is in relation to the Epstein files, and also the King, given his association with his brother, maybe you should have cancelled the visit. Another thought I had about the Trump visit was the cost. Apparently it's £20 million. I understand that there were 13,000 soldiers basically standing in formation and giving a military display to Mr. Trump, which I don't know. I'm wondering what the point of that was. Now, was the point of that more for the public who happened to be watching it? I don't know how many people would have watched that bit, but you might have got a clip or two on the news. But what was the point of all of that? I mean, I think the last time we had a full state visit was some 10 years ago. The country can't afford these things. We're supposed to be having a cost of living crisis, but yeah, we've got money to lavish, favor and patronage on Mr. Trump. And then we're going to be talking about we're having a cost of living crisis and we can't afford to do certain things. It just doesn't sit well. I mean, I know some people will say, oh, well, that's a special relationship and that's really important. But the problem with the special relationship is that the special relationship had us hit with tariffs the other day, 25% tariffs on steel. So it's not that special. We also had tariffs put on passenger vehicles and a 10% tariff on reciprocal goods. So the special relationship, I think, is questionable. And do you even know what the components of it are? I mean, given that Mr. Mandelson was an ambassador and champion, do you honestly think it was all good what's in the special relationship? His nickname was the Prince of Darkness. I think not. In addition to that, I think the state visit by Mr. Trump was about a charm offensive. And I don't know how effective that charm offensive is or is going to be. I mean, Mr. Trump, while you might not like his politics, he's pretty astute. And I'm sure he can work out when someone's trying to effectively give him a free lunch. They often want something in return. And the question is whether or not Mr. Trump will deliver. If you notice how many times members of our royal family are pictured with the Ukraine, we're heavily invested in continuing that war. And that's what I think part of this whole thing is about, keeping him on side for the Ukraine conflict. I'll be keen to see if any of the pledges that were made by so many of these tech companies come to fruition. I'd also be keen to see whether or not any agreements or warm words translate into changes of policy in and around the Ukraine for the UK and also the US. I'm not sure what you think about the Trump visit and the whole special relationship. I'll be very keen to hear. Do you think my analysis is completely off-piste? Do you think I've been unfair, justified, or just overly cynical? Jump up in the comments or come to my show on Friday at 8 p.m. on X, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Trump will be leaving tomorrow. And it will be interesting to see how the weekend papers analyse his visit. I wonder if they will round on the same areas that I have. That it was a great banquet. It was a ceremony for the public to witness on the news. It was a throwback to the days of empire. But after all the hors d'oeuvres, the smiling and the coat tail carrying, nothing much is really going to change. Give me your thoughts, your 3 pence, or your declining dollar price. Thank you for your listening ear. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next week. And cut!